Hello, today we're going to learn our last set of school subject vocabulary. These are, I refer to them as electives. Some of them count for career and technology credit, some of them count for even like science credit. Some of them are here at Richland, some of them we offer at the Bechtel. Either way though, there's a whole variety of classes and I want to make sure you know how to sign them. So here they are alphabetically, the electives. First, we're going to start with anatomy and physiology. So this is all the parts of the human body and how they work together to do the thing we call life. So all of that fancy terminology is really just the study of the human body, right? So it's body study, anatomy and physiology. Next, we have animal science. So animal, it's bent hand shapes. So kind of a bent hand. And then your fingertips touch your chest, and then they move in and out. There are a ton of minimal pairs with this sign, so you have to be careful. Make sure you get the movement right, moving this way back and forth. Animal science. Next, we have animation. And traditionally, animation are funny movies. I know now there are plenty of films that use animation that aren't necessarily funny, but the sign is cartoons, and that comes from the sign funny. Cartoons. So that's the sign for animation. Next we have aquatic science. That's about all the cool and interesting things that live inside ponds and lakes in the ocean. So that's water science, aquatic science. Next we have architecture. Architecture. So you think about the design of a building and how it looks, the shape of the building starts with an A, architecture. We have classes in automotive. So that is car repair. And this is the sign to fix. So it's a flat O, and then they move back and forth this way. Fix. Car repair. We also offer classes in child development. So children and development. Think about a graph. As the children get older, they get taller, right? So you'd graph how that looks, and that's what that sign development means. That's where it comes from. We also have a class in clinical rotation. So this is, if you want to go into, say, nursing, this is a great class to take because you get to literally rotate through the different sections of the hospital. So clinical rotations. Clinic, take turns. We have classes in construction. So you could talk about building, or this is the sign to remodel or to improve, to fix up. So building or remodeling. We offer classes in cosmetology. There's a whole lot more to cosmetology than cutting hair. You learn a lot about hygiene and how to make sure your customers stay safe. That can also include nail and makeup and all sorts of other things. But mostly when we think about cosmetology, we think about learning to cut hair. We have classes in credit recovery. Credit. So it's an F hand shape and you're putting something in your pocket. Like, oh, I have this and I'm going to save it for later. Credit, and this is the sign to catch up, right? So we talk about sports and a race. Recovery, you are catching up because you had fallen behind and you are catching up with that class now. We also have classes in culinary arts. That's cooking. And it's not really an art. It can be an art, but we don't sign it that way. So we just sign cooking. Even though we're only in C's, we are halfway through our vocabulary, so take a minute to review these signs. We also have a class called Dollars and Cents, and it's about personal finance. But here's an interesting story about it. So this is the sign for dollar. So imagine you have like money folded in a money clip and you just pull one bill off the end. That's kind of what I think of. So dollars. And then when it comes to cents, we sign cents. Ironically enough, the sign, well, it's not irony. It's actually what we call English intrusion. So cents, S-E-N-S-E, is like, that makes sense. That's smart. I understand that. And that's kind of what the the class is playing with it, because that's pronounced the same as cents, as in a penny, C-E-N-T-S. And in ASL, they are signed the same way. Cents like gee, that's smart, and cents like several pennies. So when it comes to signing this class, the pun is kind of lost, but it's dollars and cents. The next class we're going to talk about is Floral Design. Floral Design. So flower is a flat O under your nose, because so it's like a rosebud and you're smelling it. So floral, and then design is like art. Sometimes you'll see it with a D as well. Art or design. Next we have graphic design. That's where graphics, there's a lot of different ways to think of that concept, but mostly it's like a picture. So that's the sign we're going to use. So a picture, you see it with your eye, and then you put it on a piece of paper. Picture, right? Like you look through the camera and you see it, and then later you can print that out on a piece of paper or show it on a screen. So graphic design. Graphic design. Interior design. Interior design can apply to all sorts of things. Buildings, offices, schools, but usually when we think of interior design, we think about decorating a house. So that's the sign. House, decoration. Flat hands draw a house, and then you decorate it. C's make circles. Next we have journalism, and this is the sign for a newspaper. So it's like a 20 in the palm of your hand, because that's also, if you do it once, that is the verb to print. So you think about how a newspaper was printed back in the old days, or still today when you find a paper newspaper. It goes through a printing press and it prints the letters onto the paper. So that's where that comes from, newspaper. And even if the paper is going away, the concept is still there. Next, we have Jrotc. So that is an acronym for Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps. And the idea is that while you are in high school or in college, if you drop the J, it's just ROTC, that is training you to become an officer in the Army when you get out of school. ROTC can be related to several different branches of the military, but around here we have Army. Ours is Army, ROTC. So Army, Jrotc. Army, Jrotc. Army, again, we've talked about this with the holidays, but it's A, hands like you're holding a rifle or holding up a flag at attention. Classes in law enforcement, that's training you to be a police officer. So I tend to sign it with a bent L. Some people sign it with a C, but it's the idea of highlighting that badge on their chest. So it goes across your body, police officer. Medical terminology is a good class if you want to think about becoming a doctor or a nurse someday. So the sign for medical or doctor is a bent hand that taps your wrist. So nurse was 2 fingers. Medical is your whole hand, or doctor. And then words. So basically you're signing doctor words. This is a 1 and a G. And I think about if you were trying to isolate a word on a page, that would be a way to do it, right? Just that word, not the whole thing, but just that part. So medical terminology. Principles of technology. This is a science class that relates to computers and electronics and kind of the concepts of how some of those things work. So this is principal, like the man who's in charge of your school, principal. But if you're talking about principal, P-L-E, that's principle. Like the sign law, principle. So law, rule, principle. Principles of technology. Again, we've seen that technology sign before. Your weak hand is up and to the side. Your dominant hand is a feeling hand shape, and you tap on the edge of your hand there. Principles of technology. We have classes in pharmacy. So if you want to become a pharmacy tech, think about a mortar and pestle, the bowl where you grind up herbs. Maybe you've seen it at a restaurant making guacamole, or maybe mom has one in the kitchen. Traditionally, that was used to make medicine. So that's where the sign comes from. Again, flat hand and a feeling hand shape, but this time you wiggle it inside your palm. Pharmacy or pharmacy tech. We have classes in psychology. This comes from the Greek symbol psi, which is where the word comes from. So we are recreating that symbol. The sign's a little awkward, so I'm just warning you. Usually I say if it feels awkward, you're doing it wrong. No, this one's just awkward. So this hand needs to be palm out and then open this way. And then this becomes the up and down part of the psi. And that's the sign there, psychology. Ready, Set, Teach is a class in education. So it's like teaching, but with an ED, education. Sociology is about how people interact, how one individual behaves differently than a group of people will. So this is the sign to hang out or to interact, and then you study it. So interaction studies. And last but not least, we have classes in travel and hospitality. So the sign is, I'm sorry, I didn't do that well. Travel. It's a bent V, because that's somebody sitting. That shows somebody sitting. And then you go lots of different places. You ride on a bus, and then you ride on a train, and then you ride on a plane, and you go all these different places. Travel. All right, this list was by no means exhaustive. There are plenty of other classes that are offered at Richland and at the Bechtel that can help you find the future that you need. If you're interested in a class that I didn't cover, please reach out to me and ask, and I'll be happy to make a video with those additional signs in it. I hope this was helpful. I hope your future I know your future looks bright, and that this gave you some ideas of classes to take in the future. And until then, happy signing.